G'day and welcome back. Today I've got something very exciting. It's travelled all the way from Denmark. It's a Bang & Olufsen Beomaster 700. Back in my earlier years, Bang & Olufsen was, up there with the best. This was sent to me by a gentleman named Lars. He's Danish, but he's currently living in Canada. He contacted me. He said, when I go back to Denmark, which is in a month or so, he's going to visit his mother. He was going back there. He said, I'll find a radio for you and send it over. So he very generously donated this to the channel. It's fantastic people do this sort of thing. As I said, it's a Bang & Olufsen. They were two Danish guys. They got together and built some radios, and they were very successful. Let's have a look along the dial. There's a signal strength meter, volume control. This says automatic. I think it's automatic frequency control. I don't think it automatically searches for stations. Next to the volume, there's two tone controls. That's the off switch. That says phono, tape, antenna. I assume that switches between the internal ferrite antenna and the outside antenna. That says AUT. I assume that's automatic frequency control. That'll be shortwave, medium wave, long wave, and it's got FM. And there's the tuning. So what's that doing? Oh, there's one down there. Couldn't see it. Okay, so that's okay. So they're both locked together. That should be, yeah. Okay, so they're both locked when it's on FM. That needs to be fixed. Here's the top of it. I think it's a teak colour. It's finished in Scandinavian oil, and it's found itself in a workshop or something. It's got, rings on there from paint tins or whatever they've sat on there. So hopefully I can remove all that and refinish it. And this apparently is a mono version of a 900, which had another speaker on this end, or I think there was also a model that just had the actual receiver part of it, and you had separate speakers, so it was sort of cut off there. It was a shorter version. So apparently the board they've used in this is the same as the model 900, but they just left one channel blank. They didn't put it in, and they've changed the controls here to mono controls instead of stereo. All right, let's have a look at the back. I've spun it around, as you can see. What I didn't mention was this was an all transistor set, so there's a number of transistors on the back. I'm not all that au fait with transistor sets, so this is a good learning opportunity. We'll have a quick look along the back. There's two inputs for antennas. That's the FM, that's the AM. There is a lead here with a plug on it, and that goes into one of these. I assume it's the AM for the internal antenna. Each one has two little round sockets, and I assume RCA plugs would fit in there. There's some sort of T plug there, and they would pick up on one of those two. They would duplicate the two sockets. Get a rather interesting view if you flip these around. There's a socket there for a mono speaker output, tape and record player DIN plugs. These two transistors here will be the push-pull output, I would think. That'll be something to do with a power supply. And this doesn't have any selectors. I've seen them with different voltages. They've just settled on 220 volts with this one. I'll remove the chassis. There's 4 bolts underneath. I think it just all comes out here. There's 2 screws there and 2 screws there as well. There's a couple on the end here. I don't know if they need to come out or not. I'll leave them in, take these 4 out, take the 4 on the bottom out. I should be able to slide it out. I've removed these 4 screws, and there was only 2 on the bottom. I thought there was 4. I do need to take these out. It's not moving, so I assume these are going to come out. And, of course, we do have a tie with Denmark, because our Mary married Prince Frederick. So she's now Queen Mary of Denmark. And she was from Tasmania. Let's see if this will come. It's not. Something's hanging onto it in the front. All right. I'll remove whatever is on the front, and we'll take the chassis out. Okay, I got the chassis out. It was just a bit tight in the case. There was nothing else holding it in. This antenna wire and plug is actually an FM antenna. It has a dipole antenna taped on the inside of the case. So it's FM. I wasn't sure if it was FM or AM, but it's FM. And the AM, of course, is this ferrite antenna. There's a switch on the front there we looked at earlier. That'll switch between using the internal ferrite antenna and the socket on the back. Let's have a look at the radio itself. I've already had a quick look around. There's 2 boards here. This main board here. I think this is the output board with the output transistors on it. And the components are mounted underneath with the solder points on the top. And I think if I take these 2 screws out, I think that'll pivot on this bracket here. And then you'll be able to gain access to the bottom board. There's the ferrite antenna. It's got the 3 different wavelengths for short wave, long wave, and medium wave. Before I look at this power supply end, I'll have a look at this FM tuner that won't disengage. Here's the tuning knob, and if I turn that, you can see it turning the shaft inside, and it's tuning the condenser here. Now when you select FM, it'll flip it over, to the other side, and it should just operate the FM dial, but it's operating both, as you can see. If I put my finger there, it should stop this one moving. Yeah. So I think it's just a bit tight. It's probably got grease in there that's dried out. I'll clean that up and that should start working again. Here's the power supply at the other end. There's a transformer, capacitor, there's a fuse, selenium rectifier in there. I think this puts out about 34 volts or something, and it has a 6.3 volt tapping for the dial lamps. There's a fair bit of rust on this, and if you look at that, look, it's like you'd see on an old battleship. It's really thick, heavy rust. This bracket over here has got heavy rust on it. The lamp holder's corroded. The volume control, if you can see that, is corroded on the cap there. So it's been stored in a fairly humid or damp area. This capacitor bracket's very rusty as well. I'll lift it up and have a look underneath. This is underneath. All the components are mounted here. There's an on-off switch there. This has something on it. I don't think it's corrosion. It looks like it's had a tape on it that's fallen off or something, left the adhesive. Not sure about that. I initially thought this was rusted, but it's not. It's that color. I saw photos online, and that's the color that is. I don't know if it's copper or brass or got a coating on it, but that's how it's supposed to look. There's a fuse up here, and that has got barnacles on it. It's so corroded. But I think that's for the lights, not the radio itself. I do have a schematic. It came with the radio. It was in a little packet there, and it originally was taped to the bottom of the inside of the cabinet. Apparently this was sold as not working. I can clean that up. That's not going to do anything. I'll clean up the other fuse as well, the main one. Maybe should check this switch is working, because corrosion's going to be the big thing here, I think. I've got some white vinegar here. I'll see if it attacks the corrosion on here. I can't see it bubbling off. I'm going to have to attack it mechanically. I'll pop the fuse out and see what it looks like. Well, it needs a new fuse for a start. I'll just quickly clean that up. I'll put the fuse back, and it's only for the dial light, so it's not going to make any difference to the radio. I've put a bit of dioxide on it, and that seems to be actually removing it pretty well. I'm going to try it out. I wasn't sure whether I should just put power on it or not. I'll give it a go. I've got it on dim bulb. I've got a very light bulb in there. I think it's about 25 watts. This will only pull 4 or 5 watts, I would think. I cleaned that fuse down here. That was a bit corroded as well. And the switch, the power switch, I cleaned that. That had resistance across it. So it may have been enough to stop it. I'm not sure. I've connected my shop speaker into the speaker outlet there. And I've got an FM antenna on it. I'm going to use my loop antenna for the AM. So let's put it on. Yeah, I've got to turn it on there. Medium. So I put it on AM, medium wave. That's only 3. No, it's a bit low. It should have been 220. The voltage is a bit low. Oh, it works. There's noise. Let's put that on.
It's a Monday morning. You've just arrived at school. You've got your uniform on, sensible shoes, the daggy school hat. And yes, you're very much. Whether or not high powers in rugby league will allow him to do that remains to be seen.
Surely they're more worried about putting on a good international product.
Sam Neal, reflecting on his career, you can text me 0467 96612 or call 1300 222.
That's the ABC. It gets that whistling noise through ABC here. So it's working.
And this story confronting for you because it contains just sexual assault.
Got that whistling noise there too. I can actually connect that to the back there. I didn't think of that. Hang on. I've connected the AM antenna into the socket there. I didn't think of that. I was being a bit silly there. So if I push that,
I was trying to test out whether it's
goes to the external antenna. It probably kills this ferrite antenna.
the desk. For a moment, it looks like...
Yeah.
We should Australia policies inside.
WA to inspect towards the top.
Music station here. Yeah, very hard to get. So AM's working perfectly. Okay. What about FM? I've got the FM antenna on. Let's try that. Oh, that doesn't work. How about?
fabulous. Mercy, love that. And
whoa, sorry. Hang on. I think these switches need to be cleaned.
97.3.
There we go.
I got my first real 6-string.
Every single day I reverse my car into the same little nook. I don't need cameras or sensors because I know that nook like the back of my hand.
Right.
Over the weekend,
It's all working. Oh, I didn't look at this. Let's have a look at this.
I felt a bump.
Just thought I'd have a look at this meter here. Well, it's not moving.
Oh, don't lie.
They
It
threatened
jumped.
Amazing human being that he was. You know, he was a very gentle, amazing soul.
I was going to try this automatic frequency control, but the radio stopped working. It's not working on anything. What have we got here? The amp's still going. We've lost everything else. Ugh. Well, I better turn it off, find out what's going on. Turn it back on for a sec. It's working again. Okay, not sure what's going on there. Can we get that off there? So that's automatic frequency control.
She says she believes in Robin Hood and Brother Hood
So,
colors green and gray.
right, okay. All right, I didn't quite get that. It's got minus AUT, so when you push it in, it actually takes it off automatic frequency control. I assume that put it on, but it doesn't. So it was already on automatic frequency control. Why it stopped working, I don't know.
Girls and people pleasers. And unfortunately, when you're pregnant, like the massive increase in
So
estrogen and
this
progesterone
isn't
towards
working.
the end
I
of
don't know if it's the
gestation
meter or the
really,
signal to it. Have to
leans
check that
towards
out as
harmony
well.
keeping and
Turn it off again. I will change all the components on it. Any of these electrolytics, I'll just change them. I think I'll just do these few electrodes off camera. Nothing special about that. Another one down there. But there'll be better and more interesting things to look at a bit later on. I said earlier, I think this will flip up so I can access the lower board there. And there's two screws, one at each end. All right, let's see what happens. Strings in the way there. I think I need to remove this ferrite antenna, and I can't budge it. It's hard. That rubber's gone hard. I think if I take that away, I'll be able to lift that up. All right, I very carefully moved that away. And now what happens? There we go. All right. There's a couple more capacitors in there to do as well. All right, I'll replace all these. I'll do the ones on the lower board as well. And then I'll come back and we'll see if it still works. I've replaced all the electrolytic capacitors bar one. The main board here, the capacitors are in this area here. There's some up here as well. I also replaced those fuse clips there that were corroded, so I've got a new one in there that looks nice. Another capacitor there, a couple over here. And there was quite a number on the separate amplifier board that's up the top. Here are the old capacitors here, and the problem was they had bent the tails over onto the board. I think they'd mounted all the capacitors, bent them all over so they'd stay there and put them in a solder bath. So they were really hard to get out. It just took ages to get each one out, try and lift the little pigtail up so you could pull it out through the hole. Here's the amplifier board up here, and I changed those capacitors first. I tested the radio, everything was working okay. When I tested it after I changed the rest of the capacitors, the AM worked, but the FM didn't work. I went over the whole circuit board where I've worked and I couldn't see any faults. I managed to trace the FM signal up to the ratio detector or the discriminator, and the signal was there, but it didn't come out of the discriminator. I eventually found that I had shorted 2 pads together. Here's a photo of the 2 pads, and they're extremely close, and I thought they were joined together when I desoldered it. So I just put them back together. Of course, that just shorted out the FM. I cleared that, and the FM's now working. So if I put it on FM, it should work.
I'll never forget standing in a Hard Rock Cafe.
Push pineapple, grind coffee.
All right.
The auto frequency control works really well. I'll turn that up. I'll turn it on.
With Adrian and Chinchilla, hello.
So it hangs on to the FM signal and you almost can't get rid of it. So it works really well. Now the AM works. I'll put external antenna on.
Clue number 2, you might be familiar with my relatives. Clue number 3, I started my career.
With some really good defensive decisions. I still think...
Yeah, so it works really well. The radio works very nicely. I'll turn off the audio frequency control, go to FM. And the signal strength meter there is now working. So if I tune around,
But these
yeah, that's working right now. That's come good.
They've had injuries throughout the season.
Haven't done anything to the power supply area yet. The capacitor here needs to be changed. It's the only one left. I may restuff it. I might just put a new one in there. You can't see it. Probably not worth worrying about the authenticity of it. The selenium rectifier is still in here. The bracket that holds that capacitor is rusted, and these bolts here that hold the transformer are very rusted. I need to clean up the light bulb holders here. I'll start by removing the bolts that are holding the transformer in. I'll see if I can undo the nut. I've put a bit of penetrant on it and let it sit for 5 minutes. Should come off. It's fighting me. It's coming off. I'll put a tie wrap there just to hold the transformer while I take out the other bolt. And I'm going to have to lift this board up so I can get to the other screw. I've lifted the circuit board. I've got the screwdriver on there, but I can barely see the screw. Just got to find the nut. There we go. All right. I'll desolder this capacitor. All right, here's the capacitor. It's 1000 microfarad at 50 volts. I'll test it on my little multi-function tester here. That'll give us an ESR. It's probably all right. It's a Hunt's capacitor. Yeah, what we've got 1105 microfarad and 0.9% V loss, an ESR of 0.18 ohms. So it's probably fine. I could put it on my real capacitor tester, which would put some voltage through, but yeah, I'm going to change it anyway. Here's the new capacitor I'm going to use. It's 1000 microfarad at 63 volts, and that's coming up at 1015 microfarad. 5% V loss and 0.18%. So it's only slightly better specs than the one I'm replacing. But I'll put that in anyway. I'll feel more comfortable with that. I did consider restuffing this one with the new one. I don't think it's worth it. I'll work out a way of mounting this, and I think I'll just put this in. The radio's been serviced. It's got new parts in it. These rusty bits I'll take out to my media blaster and I'll clean them up in that. I think I'll desolder these rusty lamp holders, and I might put them in the media blaster too. As we just saw, I've cleaned these up in the media blaster, and yeah, they come out really good. They're like new. This bit of rubber goes on the back of this bracket around about here. That mounts here, and it holds the signal strength indicator in its position there. Because this bracket also holds the power transformer in position, I thought I'd better refit it. So to replace this capacitor here, I'm going to use this little one, as we said. I've made up a little block of plastic here, and that'll fit in there. And then that will clamp it in. So that'll look all right, I reckon. So that will fit in there, secure the transformer, and give me a nice stable attachment point for the wires. I'm in two minds with this selenium rectifier. I could probably leave it there, it'll never fail. But I don't want to take that chance. I'll take it out and I'll rebuild it with silicon diodes. I've removed the rectifier. I'll work out how to pull it apart. I'll take it out in my workshop. Here's my plan. I have a block of wood in the vise. I'm going to try and capture the end here on that bit of wood. And I'm going to try and tap this top off. I don't think there's anything holding it. If there is, I won't be able to move it. But we'll give it a go. Hopefully it'll just slide off like that. Not sure what's going to spring out. There'll be springs in there, I assume. I'm probably destroying a perfectly good rectifier, but I think they get corrosion in there and get high resistance. And because this radio has obviously seen a lot of corrosion, I think I might be better off getting rid of it. All right, let's see what this is made of. Now I'm going to try and fit new diodes inside here. And you can see there that the plates have deteriorated, and you can see that they've got something on them or something's worn off them. Yeah, probably better to get it out of there. Yeah. There's an insulator here, and once again you can see it's deteriorating on the back of it. So I'm probably trying to justify why I'm doing this, but I think it's a wise choice. All right, I'll work out how I'm going to do this. It's only a matter of just laying some diodes in there and putting the cover back on. I've drawn a little circuit of a full wave rectifier. There's the AC in on those two corners, and those connectors there have the positive out and the negative out. So I should be able to do it here. I've laid the diodes out as they're going to go. So that one's going to go across there, that one will go across there, that one there, and this one across here. I think these will solder. It looks like they're soldered onto these plates, so that should be okay. There'll be AC in that way, and there's an AC in that way, and there's your positive out and negative in. So I'll solder the diodes in off camera. We'll come back and reassemble it. I've soldered the diodes in. I've checked the directions, make sure it's all correct, but that's worked out well. They soldered in very well. This is the base, and these sit, well, it sits that way in the base, but they're sitting there, and I'm not sure exactly what sort of insulation that is. So I've cut some little bits of fish paper, and I'll stick them on there. That'll give me another layer of insulation and keep a bit of distance away from that back plate. I don't want it shorting out. The fish paper has adhesive one side, so I should be able to just stick them down there. All right, that'll slide in there now. And insulation there. And I might be able to just push this home, I think. Yeah, okay, I might have to take it out the workshop and just knock that last bit in. I started walking towards the workshop and then it sort of slid home. So if I line those holes up there, it all should be lined up. There we go. Fantastic. I'll do a quick test with the multimeter just to make sure that the symbols are actually aligned with the way I've put the diodes in. So that's active in. It shouldn't come out the negative there. Shouldn't come out. Oh, it should come out the positive on it. So there we go. And not out the other active. I've turned it around now. It's in the other active tab. So shouldn't come out the negative. Shouldn't come out the other active. Should come out the positive. Correct. Okay. I've had to change meters. That other one doesn't appear to have a dedicated diode setting. Probably does, I just couldn't find it. And that's going from negative to positive. So that's the total voltage drop across two of the diodes. I've connected the positive lead to the positive and the negative on the negative, and we should not get any flow. Okay, so that's testing okay. I'll put that in the radio. I've refitted the selenium rectifier, which is now a silicon rectifier. My little capacitor's in there. I was able to join the wires on quite easily. So I'm not sure if that looks cool or a little bit silly. Anyway, it's in there. The transformer's refitted. I've got my multimeter connected to the output of the capacitor there. And the meter's over here. It's on DC. It should be 34 volts according to the schematic. I've got it on FM. I'll put some power on. Now that said 6 watts. It usually runs about 3. What do we got? 29 volts. That should only be 3 watts. That's what it's been running at before. I've got the mains voltage down a bit because I thought with the diodes in there it's going to come out at a higher voltage. I'll just put it on again. Turn it up. There's no sound. Try AM. I can hear the amp clicking. I don't like that at all. What's going on? I do have the dial lamps in now. Maybe that may account for the extra wattage. I've unscrewed the 2 dial lamps. Put it on again. 3. That's better. So the dial lamp's doing that. Still doesn't work. What have we got? 20, 30 volts. I can hear the amp clicking. That's medium wave. Antennas are on. It's not working. The voltage is okay. Now the current draw is okay. Or the power. It's still a bit higher than it was. It was only 2.9 or something. I'll just put these globes back in, or one of them. It shouldn't make much difference. It's gone up a bit. Okay. All right. I've flipped the radio. I've got the component side up. I did go through and look at the back of the board here. All the solder joints, the printed circuit. It's all fine. I checked all that the other day as well. There's a voltage adjuster over here, a bit hard to see, and that adjusts to 24 volts. And we've got 23.5. Now we are slightly down on power, so I'll just leave that at the moment. But I've been checking the voltages, and the voltage is getting all the way up to the front end of the circuit. I've cheated a bit here. I spent about half an hour checking things and voltages and stuff, and things look okay. As we found, there's no FM coming through, or AM for that matter. But there's a very, very strong station down the end here, and I can actually pick that up.
Except they couldn't understand.
Well, we want to make sure that we understand this well, and we're going to continue next.
It's getting that one, so whatever the fault is, it's going past it. It's able to power through whatever the fault is. Now, what I do wonder is these 2 transistors here. The circuit says these should be AF126. You can just see it printed on the board there. This doesn't look like an AF126. This looks like an AF116. And this is about the only experience I've got with transistor radios, because I've had this before with other radios that I've worked on. The 2 transistors, the AF126 and the AF116, are pretty much interchangeable. You just swap them out, there's no problem. This one here looks like it's a 116. It has the straight sides. The 126 has a little top hat shape, and they're smaller than this. I can't see any numbers on here, but I suspect that's a 116, and these suffer from tin whiskers. I'm trying to find a part number on this thing, and I can't find it. It's not around there. Oh, well, there it is. And it's AF116. So that's confirmed. That's the one that suffers from tin whiskers. The AF126 doesn't have the same issue. I'll check the voltage there. It says base 1.4 volts, that should be. And it's pretty much 0 volts. There's a collector that says 8 volts. That's got 8.4. That's coming through the amp. I could hear that. Just bring that out of the way. I think the emitter is connected to this resistor, so if I probe the resistor, and we've got no volts there. So I wonder if they're shorting out to ground those, the base and the emitter. What happens is this container here is either tin or it's tin plated, and the tin produces whiskers that go across and short out to the junction in the transistor. There's an earth wire there. This cap is a shield. It goes down to ground. That lets the junction short to the cap, and the transistor stops working. One fix is to cut the earth wire and see if that fixes it, because you remove the ground point. The other one is to put a spark through there and try and clear the tin whiskers away from the can. Here's another AF116. I'll cut the earth for that one as well, see if that gets the radio working again. I've pushed the transistor over. I can cut that wire, that ground wire. I've got power on again. I'll put it on FM. See if it does. There it is.
I've heard from Mr. Delatsch and also Jess and I, and further back my story.
Now, it's on. Can hear you. Have a look.
There you go. I'll cut the other wire on this second transistor, and that'll get that out of the way. I'll get 2 new ones. I'll get the 126 version, and I'll put them in later on, but at this stage we can keep going. I need to check the voltages now that I've changed that selenium rectifier. I've got it on 240 volts, which is our normal voltage or nominal voltage. And we're supposed to have 34, we've got 33.5. So for whatever reason, I mean, this is a 220 volt set and it's running at 240, and I've put diodes in place of the selenium, and it's still, well, it's almost a bit low. So, okay, I'll leave it. I don't know why it's like that. There's another voltage I need to check as well, and that's here, and it's adjusted by this trimmer here. It should be 24 volts, 23.962. That'll do. So those two voltages are good. I don't need to do anything. The last thing I need to do is just check this voltage on the dial lights, and I think that'll be a bit high. 6.5. It's not too bad, I suppose. I can put a couple of Schottky diodes in there, and that'll drop that by about half a volt. I've put two Schottky diodes in there. They're facing different directions, of course, so that should drop it about half a volt. All right, let's check it now. It should be about 6 volts, 6.08. That's good. So that'll be nice and gentle on the lamps. I'll turn it on. We'll just give it a quick run through. There you go. Looking at that one.
I reckon would be your one. There's another. AFL Grand Final
At Camberwheel and...
So that's FM. That's working well.
Or three young women live.
If they can't be in place like this.
Right. And as a senator, field of transplantation, direct access to the cabinet, the Minister of Health. Pull the number out of the hat here.
the Alfie and Falcon by 3 lengths ended Alfie.
So there it is. It's all working really well now. I've ordered 2 new old stock transistors. They're coming from Spain, so they'll be here in a week or 2. I still have a few things to do to the chassis, the tuning sticking. I've got to sort all that out. The case is giving me nightmares. I hope I can restore it. I don't want to re-veneer it. So I hope I can get all those marks out of the top. So this has been a bit of a wild adventure for me. I'm not into transistors. I haven't got a lot of experience on them. So I was quite happy to get this one working. And those faulty transistors threw me for a loop. I looked at this thing for 20 minutes and wondered, where do I even start? I don't know what I'm doing with these. Anyway, it all worked out really well. I hope you enjoyed what I did today, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.